some companies offer their employees a 401k plan, which in many ways is similar to a traditional IRA, but with a couple key differences. So what exactly is this 401k, and how is it similar to a traditional IRA, and how is it different? Well, let's begin by going over the similarities. A 401k, just like a traditional IRA, is an account you set up for your retirement. It also lets you defer your income taxes by putting money into it before you cross the income tax toll booth. The investments in it are also shielded from capital gains and dividends taxes while they're in there. And it also lets you save if your tax rate goes down over time. And finally, with some exceptions, it's generally subject to the same 59.5 and 70.5 rule, namely that you have to wait until you're 59.5 to start taking money out of it, and then once you're 70.5, you're required to start taking money out of it. Fair enough. How's it different, though? Well, remember we used the story of Stanley? Well, Stanley works for a company called Painters Incorporated. And you remember that his IRA scenario looks something like this, where he puts money into it before the ordinary income tax toll booth. So let's say that this is just not an IRA, but a 401k. What changes? Well, the first key difference is a 401k is something that is employer-sponsored. It's something that Painters, Inc. offers Stanley. It's not an individual retirement account. As part of that, the second difference is he has limited options. Painters, Inc. has given him a couple of options to choose from, and usually they do this through a third-party investment company. But so in this case, he might have 2 mutual funds to choose from and company stock, and maybe he says that he wants to invest in mutual fund number 1. But that's another key difference. The third difference is he can contribute a lot more to this 401k than he can to an IRA. So this number differs from year to year, but if you take 2012, for instance, in 2012, he could contribute $5,000 to his IRA, but to his 401k, he could contribute $17,000, or more than 3 times as much. And this is a big deal because, remember, that's $17,000 less that's in his car when he goes to the ordinary income tax toll booth, which means more money in the here and now. But the big difference, the big kicker between a 401k and a traditional IRA is this last one, which is it gives you a chance for easy money. Now, a lot of 401k plans have employers who offer to match whatever the employee puts in there. So let's say that Stanley decides that he's going to put in $17,000. Painters, Inc. might say that they'll match every dollar he puts in there up to $3,000. And so if that's the case, they would also contribute to his retirement. And this $3,000 is essentially a bonus for Stanley. It's extra money that Painters, Inc. is contributing to it. So knowing these things, here are a couple tips for managing a 401k plan. The first one is take advantage of that easy money. If there is an employer match program, you're going to want to take advantage of it because let's say you decide not to invest in a 401k, not only are you not saving for retirement, but you're essentially leaving all of that money on the table. You're not taking the gift that they would have given. The second thing is develop an asset allocation. Now, we cover what asset allocation is in another video, but the basic gist is try to find the right mix of asset classes, stocks, bonds, commodities, that's going to help your portfolio to grow as much as possible with the least amount of risk. The third thing is don't overinvest in any one stock. Now, a lot of employers will offer their employees a chance to invest in the company's stock as part of the 401k plan, but be very careful here. Any one stock can fall very quickly. So in Stanley's case, maybe he's invested in Painters, Inc. stock and it's done really, really well, but then 2 days before he retires, there's a corruption scandal. The stock loses 85% and his entire retirement savings is essentially wiped out. This is called concentration risk, so be very careful about this. And also it's worth noting that your financial future is already tied to the financial success of the company because you depend on them for a job. So by overinvesting in their stock, you're essentially doubling down here and taking on more risk. The fourth thing to remember is to rebalance over time. And what this means is in a given year, let's say stocks do really, really well, and they become a really big part of the portfolio, and bonds don't do very well. Well, rebalancing simply means taking these two things and maybe selling stocks so that that position is smaller and purchasing bonds, and so that way it brings it into greater harmony so that you're not skewed too much in one way or the other. And finally, the fifth thing is roll over when it's over. What does this mean? Well, let's say Stanley and Painters, Inc. part ways well before he's retired. Maybe he's 40 years old. Well, sometimes employers will allow their employees to stay in that 401k plan, but a lot of them don't. And if that's the case, what that'll force you to do is to cash out of it. And there's 2 problems with this. First of all, you lose that ability to get that dividend and capital gains tax benefit of not having them taxed. And also, you could be subject to a 10% penalty for early withdrawal. So what you can do in this case is you can take the money from your old 401k and roll it over either into a new 401k or into an IRA. And that way, you don't get penalized early and you retain this favorable treatment of dividends and capital gains. Now, this is the basic gist of the 401k. But it's also worth noting that there are other types of plans that are very similar to a 401k under different names. For instance, a 403b or a 457, these are plans that apply to either nonprofit employees or government employees. But for all intents and purposes, they're just like a 401k. The bottom line is, if your company offers you a 401k plan or something similar, it's almost always a good idea to take advantage of it.